Good afternoon and welcome to the ICB Student Success webinar. Today we're very lucky to have Ricardo Pereira join us. Hello Ricardo.
Hi everybody.
Ricardo is an associate member of ICB, and we've brought him on board because, partly because Ideal Schools, Ricardo's training provider, said that he did an excellent job in his exams. He passed very quickly and subsequently went on to set up his own business, and this is all in a very short space of time. So I'm hoping that today he's going to be able to share some of his top tips for studying and then also obviously setting up his business. So Ricardo, good afternoon. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing when you decided to change your life and become a bookkeeper?
Hello everybody. So I was working in the corporate world. I was working at a very senior position in the corporate world and got a little bit bored and decided to do something else and take the plunge and really go on to doing something that's my own business and having my own clients. So if I could make other businesses successful, why couldn't I do mine? So I decided to study with ICB, and obviously Ideal Schools were my tutors. And that's where it all started, really. And
what was it about bookkeeping that appealed to you? And do you think your idea of bookkeeping as a profession has changed in any way?
Oh, yes, it has. There's a lot of myths around there that as a bookkeeper, it's the boring job entering your invoices, making bank payments. Yes, that's the main part of the job, but it's also about helping people and helping businesses to succeed and do the core of their business whilst you look after the accounts. And some clients you'll make payments, bank payments for. Other clients it's very straightforward and you just do your purchases and your sales, and obviously other things like payroll, etc. So there's so much within bookkeeping that allows you to do and go different areas, especially the advisory route that you help clients in making their own business decisions through the work that you do on a regular basis, either day-to-day, weekly or monthly.
So in terms of the qualifications that you did before you set up your business, can you talk to us a little bit about those? So obviously you're an associate member, you've done your payroll qualification. Yes. How relevant do you think those qualifications are to the work that you're doing now?
Oh, totally relevant. So I studied with Ideal Schools back in 2015 when I did most of my courses and exams. And most of my clients I do payroll for. So that's definitely one of the courses that I have made a lot of use of, because it's always about the add-on service that you can provide to the client. So payroll is definitely up there. I've also taken the self-assessment tax course that also has provided me with additional services, especially for directors who need to file self-assessments, and also individual sole traders that need to file their own personal tax returns. Compile that with bookkeeping, you obviously offer a better offer for the clients, whether they are sole traders or limited companies.
So just quickly, how many clients do you now have, and do they tend to be in a specific industry or a specific size even?
Yeah, so I have several clients, various industries. One of the main industries I work with is TV and film. So I work with a lot of productions and do a lot of factual documentaries. So if you're looking at watching TV, I might have worked with the producers on that program or factual program, and what I would have done would have been the whole production's bookkeeping, including payments, etc., and working very closely with production. So that's one of the areas I specialize in. Then I have other industries, ranging from tech startups, your usual retail shop, health and beauty, marketing, construction industry, and a few others. I just took on a new client this week who do ballet. So the ballet teacher. So yes, very limited actually. So yes, very various types of industries. I do shy away from a couple of industries like restaurants and all the high risk money laundering industries mainly.
I see, because they're cash-based.
Cash-based, and I like to work with clients where everything is done through the bank. One, it's easier to deal with a client, easy to do the accounts, and there isn't cash, so no cash is dealt with. Everything is very transparent, and that's the type of client I've learned to work with, and I've shied away from any client that works with cash. But obviously, I still have some on my books that deal with cash, but they do run very good cash books. So it's about teaching the client really how you want information to be provided to you.
Wow. Okay. So, do you think that you are at at the end of your kind of studying journey, or is that an ongoing process for you?
It's an ongoing process. I've only done level 3, plus my payroll and my self-assessment. I'm actually considering going on further and doing my level 4. Actually, I am in the process of doing my level 4, but I had to pause it because business takes over. So it is something I do want to go the whole route. So I do want to do my level 4, my management accounts, drafting financial statements, but costing and budgeting. And so I have spoken to Brian at Ideal Schools, who is thrilled to have me back. And yeah, definitely looking to find more support from the Ideal School team to really continue my journey and add on those extra services that I currently can't provide, to be able to offer more to my clients.
Fantastic. Okay, so as you go up the qualification levels at ICB, it just expands the range of services you can provide for your clients. So I suppose actually you can do you think it's right to set up your business first and then sort of add on those services and those qualifications as and when necessary? Is that what you'd advise?
From my experience, I would totally not advise that. I would say study first, take your time. Take your time in doing, what you studying what you want to offer as a service, but don't jump straight into practice. Do learn your trade first, and maybe have 1 or 2 clients, but continue doing your studies, because you get to a point where you're so busy at work that you don't have the head or the time to really go back and study. So I would definitely recommend everybody to do your studies first, get some experience, and then go on to practice.
Okay, and in your experience, what level of qualification should you do then? Would you have gone on to do the level 4?
Oh yes, yeah. So I would have completed all my levels before doing. Because I wanted to leave corporate, for me at the time was the best decision that I did, and I don't look back at what I did, and I have set up a successful business on the back of that. But knowing now what I know now, I could have gone the extra mile and studied maybe an extra 6 months or 8 months, however long it would have taken me to get to level 4, and also done the additional courses to really be able to now offer a complete package to the clients or my micro entity clients, whereby I see some of the work that I do when I go up to trial balance, then it kind of has to go on to somebody else, and when I could have actually done that work for the client.
I love that. Okay, so you kind of keep the clients for longer, I suppose, before having to sort of hand them over. So, but do you actually work with accountants? How many of your clients have accountants as well?
All my clients have accountants. So I work with several types of accountants, from the just normal accountant around the corner to, the top 5, top 100 accountancy firms.
Right, okay.
So, some of the...
Can you name any names?
I work with KPMG, BDO.
Oh, wow.
So those are the 2 top accountancy firms I work with. So all my clients work with, and I collaborate with the accountants, of course, because there's a lot of things that they want us to do. So we work with them in cooperation to ensure that we produce the accounts for the clients as they wish things to be in.
Wow, that's fantastic. So really, ultimately, what we're saying is associate members of ICB are qualified to a level where they can be collaborating with KPMG accountants. That's great. Okay, so so tell me, so obviously, you know, the amount of qualifications that you can study before you set up your own business, that depends on where you start from, what other kind of work you've got, what kind of family commitments you have. What sort of situation were you in when you were studying your exams?
So I didn't have any commitments. Very much a
Right,
single bird.
that's a bonus.
Um, so you know, I did. I think I took the plunge. I was at a time when I set up my practice. I had my full-time job in corporate, and I was doing the practice on
No.
the side on a part-time basis. And I
Wow, okay.
started getting clients. And that's how it all went. And you know, the minute I landed a good contract that it was enough for me to live on, then that's when I took the plunge and went full time on the practice.
We've got loads of people on the chat here just saying they love Brian from Ideal Schools, who was one of your tutors.
He's
Also getting
fantastic.
some love for Training
Yes.
Link, another one of our major training providers. And also somebody saying, yeah, I was going to do the level 4 in the SAT and the P and the payroll, but then I got approached by an accountant and then, you know, started working with them. So so I think really what we're seeing is that bookkeepers are very much in demand. Oh, great, you've started the SAT again. Well, that's good. So yeah, as you're saying, Ricardo, any director of a business has to do a self-assessment tax return. Is it
Yes.
something that is a kind of an easy fit for a bookkeeper to go on and do that service as well?
I think it all depends. It all depends on on your experience and how you portray yourself. I would say self-assessments are not the easiest thing to do, but once you've done a couple and you start knowing what to do, for directors, usually the self-assessments tend to be quite straightforward because they usually have either dividends or have payroll, so the monthly payroll that they earn. And then again, it depends on what each client has. You know, some clients have personal pensions, some clients have various other sources of income that they have. So it's about putting everything together, really.
And I think it's one of those skills, isn't it? Just like with payroll and any sort of tax returns, you have to, you know, the regulations are changing every year. So you've got to really keep yourself up to date.
That's correct. Yeah,
So you
that's
have to be
very,
extra careful. So
yeah.
no children while you were studying, no, but you were working a full-time job.
Yes.
How did you manage to pass your exams? What, you know, what's the secret there?
Well, basically, I pulled my folder up. So Ideal Schools present you with this folder. I do apologize in the background. Somebody's drilling something or doing something. So
Okay.
but basically, this is the folder
Senseless
that
drilling.
ICB provides you with. And as you can see, there's a lot of little post-it notes that I have.
Yes.
This is how I found all the information. So I also had a notebook to go with this because I condensed it down all to small notes and I just couldn't find my notebook. But basically, this is how I studied. You get this folder, you go through the folder. I would spend long hours, so till quite late doing my studies after work. I was also, I'm not sure if you were lucky or fortunate. I had a long elongated period of sickness. That I had an operation that I couldn't be at work. I couldn't walk for some time. So during that time, I invested a lot of almost all my time in studying. And that's what I did. But the chunk of studying, and that's how I got through.
I'd say that drilling sounds a little bit like someone kind of wailing in the
I
background,
know.
but it's
I'm
right. It's
so
very
sorry.
quiet, isn't
It
it?
was quiet before.
Did you spot my mug there?
Oh yeah.
I think you can get these mugs at the Bookkeepers Summit or on the website.
Oh, cool.
Mine actually looks like it's been dishwashed a little bit too much.
I have a metallic one from one of the summits. I think it was last year. Yeah.
Should definitely come to the summit. So writing stuff out, this is quite interesting actually, because Chrissy Applin, who came on our first student success webinar, said that she did something very similar. She used sort of revision cards.
Yeah.
And so that process, do you think that process of sort of rewriting it and selecting certain elements, is that quite critical?
Definitely, yes. I mean, I always wrote down what I didn't remember or what I couldn't just memorize. So I would have this little notebook that I would carry everywhere, and I would write down simply as shorthand or just a few notes on what what I wanted to learn more, and I would also do some research and write down website addresses, etc. So I could go and revisit, and I could look at it on my phone and read. And that's pretty much how I studied. Again, everybody has their own way of studying, and one size doesn't fit all. But I found that having a notebook with me, making notes, I would always have like different sections. So very much similar to study cards, but I had it on a notebook, and I would add to it. I think at the stage I used to pile up post-it notes on top of the subject, as I would find some more information on it, or ways, formulas of calculating something. Especially with payroll, it's very important that you understand the formulas. And
sounds
so
difficult, actually. Formulas. Is anyone doing? Oh wow, there's. It's a nice big Nicola Hutchins. Okay, let's answer Nicola Hutchins' questions if we can, because she's also posted it on the Q&A. Studied over many years with Ideal Schools, bringing out my 2 kids. Not the only mum that we have at ICB. They're definitely in the majority, I'd say. So Nicola Hutchins now has, she's got a practice license, but she's struggling to find her first clients. What is it? Is it because she's had this big career break? Is it because she's got to do the self-assessment? You've got a banking and accounting background, actually also very common amongst members. I mean, what are you finding, Nicola? We should get you on. We should get you on here as a panelist. What is it? Are you finding that you are getting face-to-face with potential clients, but then you're losing them? You're not getting follow-up calls? I don't know if you can answer that for me, Nicola. Or are you just finding it's difficult to kind of network and find the right people to approach? You've approached local accountants and not getting the follow-up. What about networking meetings? Have you ever done anything like that, Ricardo? Because actually when you set up when you took office premises, that actually helped you find some clients in the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I think networking is key to any business. You always need to be out there meeting people, finding potential introducers to the business. Is not when you network, you don't necessarily find clients, but you find people that might introduce you to clients. One of the things I found very early on when I set up my practice was to work with local hubs. Try and look for the council. There's usually a local hub that's attached to your local council. So I live and work in Lambeth in London, South London. So what I did was I looked for the local network hub, which they have something in the region of about 100 members. And that really brought me some business. And at one point, I was the only bookkeeper they had on the books, or as a member. So that really, any inquiries about self-assessments, bookkeeping, accounts, usually used to come to me straight away. And that's how I gathered quite a number of clients. But also, I found a lot of clients through Facebook. It's by posting on groups, sales groups. It's about the content that you enter on Facebook. Yes, it might have been helpful that I've had a career in business development. So sales and marketing is my background. I've done that for many, many years. And obviously I've applied those techniques that I've used in the past for other work that I've done to really implement that into my practice. So that really has helped me to go about finding new clients, networking, and also posting out adverts really for work. But I would say most of my clients are 95% word of mouth, because it's about one client brings another client, and you can always offer also referral incentives to clients, so that clients refer you on to other clients. I never got any work from local accountants, I have to say.
That's where you're going wrong, Nicola.
Yeah, I think accountants, they try to hold on to their clients a lot, and unless they are really busy and they can't take on the work, they might work with yourselves. But all my clients have come to me because accountants have different fees. Even for bookkeeping, their fees are sky high, and you don't get that personalized service from an accountant as you would from a bookkeeper. So that's basically how I really got to get a lot of clients.
How many clients do you have, Ricardo? Asked somebody.
I have in the region of about 70 to 80 clients, I think. I never put a number to that because I have 20 companies that I work with on a day-to-day basis. And
Wow.
I have 3 staff members.
Three staff, 3 full-time employees.
No, 1 full-time and 2
Okay.
part-time.
Wow.
So they all help me with clients, and I actually now only work with 3 clients that I have out of those 20, but they are pretty much a full-time job, just those 3 clients.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And have you met all of the clients yourself personally?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think it's very important to meet all the clients and their staff. So I know every single client that I have. I know them very well. Even though my colleagues might do their accounts, I'm still very much involved. I still very much know what's going on, and I still speak to the clients, and I still monitor everything. So yes, never lose touch with a client. It's always very important. Even if you have somebody else working for you and doing their accounts, it's always important to be there and touch base with a client once in a while.
Wow. And so you've got sort of 70 to 80 clients now. You've got 3 staff.
Yeah.
Is that the sort of limit, do you think, for you and your practice?
Not at all. No, I'm actually recruiting now. I'm taking on a junior person to help me with admin work. So the idea is, so I have more time to go out there and look for work, so I can then increase the client base. Not scared of taking on more clients, and it's about being able to provide to everybody. So if I have somebody in the office hasn't got many clients or hasn't got a lot to do, then there's no reason why we can't go out there and look for more clients.
Wow, so you've got the capacity. Just to go back to what Nicola Hutchings was talking about, you've obviously said that you are on social media, so you're going to keep going with that. I don't know if you saw the Chrissy Applin webinar, but she's very big on social media. But I would say my own experience of coming back from work after maternity leave, and I had relatively large breaks, there is a kind of self-confidence issue sometimes. Ricardo, when you're going out to meet somebody for the first time, or when you're in, maybe even a shared office space, a lot of people talk about having an elevator pitch or something like that. How do you go about talking about yourself and your business in a way that makes people kind of trust you and respect you enough to take the leap and give you their books?
So I suppose I try to personalize all my services. So I think the personal approach is very important, and it's about offering the value of what you do, what can you provide, and how you're going to do it. And I tend only to work with clients I know I'm going to be able to do the job. So if it's a client that I'm not quite sure about, I do not. I just tell them that my books are full. But if it's a client I know I can work with, or I know what they actually need, it becomes a lot easier. So and also, having had the experience of sales and marketing in the past, I've done a lot of pitches in sorts of millions of pounds. So pitching for job or for work is not really an issue for me, because I can pitch, and if I want a client, I will hopefully get a client. And I think there's only been once or twice that the clients have said, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to go with somebody else. And that was all because of the quote that I gave them, because now I can actually choose. I'm in a lucky position. I can choose which clients I want to work with and how much I want to charge. But if you're not that lucky, and you don't, never undercut yourself, I would say. Always sell yourself at the price that you want to sell yourself. Never go under what you want to achieve, because clients will pay. If you give them the value, show them what you can do, and how easy you're going to make their life by working with you.
Do you have a pricing structure? Somebody asked.
I do, yes. It very much depends on the client, depends on the industries. Some clients I tend to do a fixed rate. So depending on what they're offering, I know roughly how long something would take me to do. So I base all my pricing structure on an hourly rate, but then I merge that into a fixed fee. Some clients are charged by the hours, some clients are charged by the day, some clients are charged by the project. So it very much depends on the client themselves and their budgets and their revenue.
And somebody's asked, one of the questions in the Q&A is, what is your average time spent per month, brackets, or per annum, per client. And you've sort of said that obviously there's only a handful of clients that you work directly with.
Yeah.
Is that sort of easy to break down, or do you kind of think, I've got my self-assessment clients and they're about this much, and is it that straightforward?
It's not that straightforward. So it really depends on the client. I would say on an average week, I would probably do 3 full days for one client. And then the remaining would be for practice and anything else that comes on top. Self-assessments, they come, usually I try to maximize my time. So I try to do the self-assessment there and then with the client in front of me. If the client has brought me everything how I want it, usually I ask clients to bring me a full breakdown of income and a full breakdown of expenses. Some of the clients are very good, so bring me Excel spreadsheets and etc., and I can see what it is and bank statements, and very quickly I do a cross-check and ensure that everything is there. But not always is that. Sometimes you have the client that comes with a full bag of receipts, and obviously that you have to go away, you have to look at everything and calculate and get your figures for the self-assessment. So it really depends on what I'm working on what's going on. With my TV and film clients that I work predominantly, sometimes it takes over absolutely everything. So sometimes I have to draw some of the work to my colleagues because I'm really busy doing something else, or a film might be coming out very soon. I might be in the middle of shoot, and that's why I'm very, very busy during that period. So it really depends on what's going on and who's available. It's how my week. Every week is a different week. This week I'm doing a webinar on a Tuesday.
Me too. I know loads of other people who are as well. Somebody, Jill O, has posted the question: how practical do you think it is to work 2 or 3 full days a week? Would the majority of clients be comfortable with that, or do you think most clients expect you to be always available Monday to Friday at least?
I think all clients expect you to be available Monday to Sunday. At least, from my experience.
Oh dear.
Sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, I get a client calling me. It's like, oh, Ricardo, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm not in front of a computer. I can't answer that question because I don't really know from the top of my head. Every client always thinks that you only work for them. So it's just about...
But I suppose that's what you want them to believe, isn't it? That's why they're paying you the money.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's always great. The clients always understand that it's your day off, and then you go back to them. But I would say, I do have clients that I work 2 or 3 days a week, but I don't work 2 or 3 full days a week. So I'd spread those 2 or 3 days a week over the course of the week. So a lot of times I work Saturdays as well. So I utilize all my time that I have for that client to get any work done.
But presumably, so you're saying that you sort of you have got capacity, you've got your 3 staff at the moment, you could grow it. Do you think there is, we know that there are some bookkeepers out there that have 2 or 3 clients. This is something that they're doing around another job or around their family commitments, whether they're a parent or they're a carer or something like that, or they've got a totally different career as well. Do you think it's possible to run a kind of a smaller practice like that?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, I don't think there's a shortage of work out there. You just need to know how to go about it and find and really sell yourself to what you can do and how you do it. I think that's very important. That's what the clients are always looking for. I mean, having trained with Ideal Schools, one of the things I learned was really to ensure that I'm providing assistance to the clients so that they can really focus on the core of their business. And it's about the systems I use. I know somebody's asking which software packages do I use. I predominantly, I say Xero. That's really one of the softwares I'm very good at, and I'm very comfortable with. And if a client has Xero, I jump at that opportunity and I tell them all the benefits of using Xero and why they should work with me. Yeah.
So Xero. And do you use any other sort of add-ons? Do you use Receipt Bank or anything like that?
No, I don't use Receipt Bank because I'm not very happy with their offering. But I do use HubDoc.
HubDoc. Okay.
Yeah. So I do use HubDoc which is very similar to Receipt Bank. But it kind of works out cheaper, because if you don't have, if you only have a small number of clients who want to use a platform like that, then it's about cost, really.
So with both HubDoc, Auto Entry, Receipt Bank, you give them to your clients quite often, don't you? And then your clients can use those apps to upload their own receipts and bank statements and things like that?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so they're all coming to the Bookkeeper Summit, by the way. So if you want to know about sort of automating processes like that, it's a good place to go. Loads of things in the chat here. Okay, so there's a couple of people, I think it's Barry, possibly, says that MTD, which is kicking in for VAT-registered businesses in April next year, and when that kicks in, accountants are going to be screaming for assistance. And somebody else earlier said that they do get work through local accountants. Does that ring true for you? Do you find that accountants are finding that now there is this requirement for better bookkeeping and they do need help?
Definitely. I mean, I think a lot of in the past, accountants never really focused on bookkeeping, and they would just predominantly do what the accountants do. But now I think there's a shift in terms of offering bookkeeping, because the accountants have realized that by offering bookkeeping, they can increase their client bases and they can obviously increase their revenues. So yes, I do think there's work out there. It's just really finding the accountants that are happy to send that work towards us, bookkeepers, to work with them or for them, depending on which contracts you get. I think there's a lot of work out there, definitely.
Loads of work out there, definitely. That's fabulous. Okay, so I did just want to, is it Maz who sent us this big message? Yeah, so Maz, you have been working as an employed bookkeeper, the only bookkeeper in the business. It's a £3 million turnover company. You've done everything for the past 17 years, and now you're being made redundant because the business is closing. And you're having trouble getting motivated to start. And you think it might be beyond me. To me, it does sound a little bit like a confidence thing. You know, that's a huge amount of time to work for one company, and sort of it's not the kind of thing that you hear of nowadays, because people do tend to flit around a bit more. It's a big jump, isn't it, to be self-employed, Ricardo? Do you have any advice that you might give?
Yeah, definitely. It's a big jump. I mean, I was very wary when I left my corporate job. It was a very well-paid job to really, to start on my business without knowing really where I was going. But I think it's about motivating yourself, budgeting for life. I think that's very important, especially if you've got commitments. Make sure that, if you are in leaving a job and embarking on a self-employed career, really ensure that you have budgeted for at least 6 months to ensure that you cover and meet your commitments. And that's really what I did. I tried it out for 6 months. I was already doing it part-time, so I knew there was an opportunity there. And it's about timing. It's find the right timing that suits you, and don't just stop working without having a contract in place. I mean, you can always have a practice and have subcontractors working for you. There's absolutely no problem with that. And I think at the beginning I did use a couple of subcontractors because I just couldn't do all the work. Especially, I had a full-time job. I was running my practice on the side. So I used a subcontractor an ICB subcontractor actually, to help me with increasing my client base. And unfortunately, when I left my job, I had to take on all the work myself. So I obviously couldn't work with a subcontractor anymore. But I think that's kind of how you do, start by utilizing resources and people around you.
Chris Appleyard was made redundant after 9 years with a large employer and would definitely recommend getting upskilled via ICB courses, as you can lose touch with other industries. It's so true. I suppose that's also something to consider, is that as soon as you get into that self-employed role, you're coming across a whole different bunch of businesses that you've never dealt with before. Whereas obviously if you're employed in one place for a significant number of years, then you can get a bit stuck, I suppose. Thank you, Chris. Okay, well that's encouraging at least. Wow.
Everyone's opening up
on the chat here, sorry.
it doesn't stop you from, specializing in that particular area. So, if you've got 9 years of experience with a large employer in a specific industry, you can go out there and look for other companies in that industry and try and pitch to that, because you will know the industry in and out. And that's what some of the clients are looking for. And, in the TV and film industry, which is one of the areas I specialize in, I didn't have experience in TV and film before. It was all through a client that kind of fell in my arms, and through that, kind of really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it. But I do have a lot of experience in private medical, in the medical industry, but I actually don't have any clients in the medical industry. So it really depends on what suits each individual, I would say.
Do you have any film and TV clients we might have heard of?
Definitely, yes. I can't talk about it, but yes, very popular channels that I think everybody sees every day. I mean, one of them obviously being BBC.
Brilliant.
But yeah, there's a few other very well-known broadcasters that I work with.
Exciting. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. This is great. What I think is really one of the interesting things about bookkeeping is that people do often turn to it as a second career. For some reason, people don't leave school dreaming of being a bookkeeper, but it does bring together people from all walks of life. Just like Chris and Barry, who was in IT for 40 years. Very interesting. So Debbie wants to know, how many celebrity bashes have you been to? Does the bookkeeper get invited to these things?
We do, yes. We do get invited to premieres. We get invited to actually see the product before it even gets approved by the broadcaster. So that's really interesting, where you've spent probably a year working with a team and making payments and wondering why have they bought toasters or helicopters. Sometimes you have to scramble. Recently I had to scramble up and I had to get a helicopter in the air in Canada. And that's how exciting it can be, because you need to be sourcing the supplier and also getting the payment out. And with, there's a lot that goes out in TV and film. And as a bookkeeper, they really rely on you to get that payment through and making sure that the payment goes through so that things can happen there and then. And some of my clients work a lot in abroad. So it's challenging, but it's also really rewarding, because when you see the product on TV, you then see, that's why they got the helicopter, or that's why they got the toasters.
Because of their bookkeeper doing some hard work behind the scenes.
Exactly,
yeah. Fantastic. Okay, so right, there we go. Mario Rufino. It takes a lot of dedication, self-belief, and working 60 plus hours when you start. You've been running your practice with 50 clients for 2 years. You're part ACCA qualified. Does that appeal to you at all, Ricardo, going up to do chartered accountancy? Because there are exemptions from some of our level 4 exams now give you exemptions into both ACCA and ICAEW. Do you, is there a chartered accountancy in your future?
Yeah, I've considered that, and I have thought about that many, many times. And no, there is definitely not that future in my career. I don't aspire to be a chartered accountant, and I don't think I want to go down that route for various reasons. I mean, one of them is I don't want to be studying a lot more to become a chartered accountant. And I think there are some restrictions when you are in practice with ACCA, that you can't be in practice and study at the same time. But I totally agree with what, was it Mario? What Mario said. Yes, working 60 hours when you start. I still work 60 hours. I sometimes work between 60 to 80 hours a week. But that has to happen. And sometimes when there's deadlines, depending on the time of the month, you have to put the hours in because the work needs to be done. So I totally agree with you, Mario, there. Definitely.
How does that sound to you? Debbie saying she's been having a dreadful morning revising. She's glad she's watching this, but you'll run out of time if you're actually working as a bookkeeper. Apparently, people are working ridiculously long hours. But I guess to an extent there is a choice, isn't there? That's the great thing about being self-employed. You can choose the types of clients that you want to work with. you can choose to a certain extent, you can choose the frequency of how often you speak to them, but also you can choose how, you can scale a bookkeeping business. Have 2 clients if you want to, grow it to 500 clients if you can.
Definitely. It's about having the scalability within the business. I mean, when I started in practice, I think within my first year, I was working about 2-3 days a week. And I was very content back then, but then I decided to scale up the business and make it a proper business and make it a successful business as well. But it's also 3 years on, it's still a very young business, and I'm still putting a lot of hours. Not every week is a 60-hour week. Sometimes some weeks I can only work 15 hours, but then I can choose what times I want to work and when I want to work. And if I know the next week is going to be a very busy week, then maybe this week I'll work less hours, or the following week I'll work less hours. It's about having that work-life balance.
I love that, the work-life balance. Yeah. It does exist, apparently. So there's a couple of questions on the Q&A. And I mean, I say a couple, there's actually 11. So actually we answered that one. And for somebody who's just starting out, do you have any more advice for gaining practical experience? So we talked a little bit about how to approach clients and where to find them, and the fact that basically you've just got to persevere. What about actually getting the experience? Somebody on the chat mentioned that they are working, doing some sort of, I think it was charity work, voluntary charity work or something like that. Is that something you'd have considered? Do you have any other advice?
I mean, doing charity, definitely doing some work before going to practice is definitely recommended. But charity work is good if you want to work for a charity and if you want to learn the ins and outs of charities. I personally don't work with charities, but if you do want to work with charities, then yes, go on to a charity and try and work with their accounts and offer your services for free. But charity is very different to your normal day-to-day bookkeeping client, because charities work in different ways. But yeah, definitely recommend going out there, working a couple of months within an accountancy firm, work for a bookkeeping firm, or have, if you've got any friends and family, ask you to work with their accounts and see, if they allow you to touch the accounts. But yeah, try and get some exposure to what you actually be doing in practice before you go into practice. And I think that would really be helpful.
And what do you think about the ICB branch network and ICB events? Have they been any use to you in sort of sharing work or getting advice?
Definitely. I mean, I've always met new people at ICB at the ICB summit and also at branch meetings. So some of the subcontractors I've worked with was through networking at those events, and I really do. Whether you're a student, whether you're in practice, I really do recommend that you go to your branch meetings and to summits, because you get a lot of information from there, and you can always speak to other members and see what they're doing, and cross-check really what systems you're using and how do you go about doing the work. But it's very important to really go to summits and keep yourself updated.
And that's something to remember, that if particularly if you're coming to this from a long-term employed role and you are feeling like you don't have enough confidence or you don't know what you're doing, take advantage of the network. It's a very, very understanding, very friendly group of people. There are, I think there's over 30 branches now around the UK. The Bookkeepers Summit is the last week of November, which is super cool because it's the biggest event we run in the whole year. But there's also the Inspire Tour, which is a roadshow run by ICB in the sort of springtime. And then also the forum, the Facebook groups. There's a special student group now in Facebook that you can join. So there's lots of people that you can share your experiences with and get help from. So do please take advantage of it. There's also a free technical support line, legal advice line, VAT tax advice line for qualified members of ICB. And you can also always just call us up for a chat, because we are obsessed with bookkeepers here in ICB HQ in London. That's where I am. And Stephen has been to a couple of branch meetings and they're very useful, apparently. That's good. friendly and interesting. That's very important. So Debbie Weston, you were wondering about, you're starting out your own business, you've applied for your practice license, and you're a bit worried. Obviously, there are quite a few things to remember. What are the most important things? Yes, there's anti-money laundering. So all bookkeepers now have to put checks in place to make sure that they are mitigating the risk of their clients or even themselves or their staff are laundering money. There's quite a lot of information about that on the website, and we're covering that at the Bookkeepers Summit. There's an annual update for AML. Obviously, you've got the data protection. There's a policy that you can download from our website once you're a qualified member. There's the indemnity insurance that you have to have alongside your practice license. So that, in a sense, it does protect you against anything that you might do willfully or accidentally wrong when you're doing your books for your clients. And you can also add additional insurance. So if you have staff or if you're working in an office and members of the public will come in, you can have public liability and employer's liability. But the only requirement that we have as a body here is that you have that all practice license holders have professional indemnity insurance. Employer's liability, however, is a legal requirement if you've got employees. What else is important? Did you have a website when you set up your business, Ricardo?
Yes, definitely. I think the website is very important to have. Don't just create a website and keep it on the web and expect people to come to you. You have to ask people to really go to your website. So through doing things like SEO, marketing, post, I've done a lot of Google AdWords. It's about Google learning that you exist and pointing you in the direction. So one of the things that I get a lot of clients through is people will go on Google and type in bookkeeper, or I don't know what they type in, and I pop up because I'm on Google Maps. So when you do a search on your phone, I appear straight away within the area that they're searching. I think that's very important if you have a website. I know somebody asked whether a .net website or .co website. It doesn't really matter. It's how you portray yourself and what content your website has and what services you're offering and what your website looks like. That's what matters. And ICB do offer that you can put a crest of the ICB on the website. So if you do want to add that, obviously I think you have to speak to ICB and get the permission. But it's also it gives you that extra reliability that you are supervised by a body that will obviously look after what you're doing. Well,
sorry, I'm just reading this note from Emma H. She is, she says, all the other people I've made friends with through studying are now qualified and taking on clients. She's on the Q&A, feeling a bit lost. Wow, you're all the way up to the BA7, so you're doing very well. I don't know if anybody else is up to BA7 yet. That's pretty high up there, isn't it? You had a bad experience with your one training provider, and now you're feeling a bit stuck. I think it definitely might be worth approaching a new training provider.
definitely.
Or trying to actually make a kind of study and like a formal study buddy, maybe through one of the branch meetings or the Facebook group. I think quite often it does help to do these things together because it can be so isolating when you're working from home. Sounds like you've got a lot of things on your plate as well. So you're working as a paralegal, you've got 2 kids, and no wonder you're struggling. So yeah, the tricky thing is, you don't want to go and do that exam and potentially not do as well as you could do. Obviously, you can retake exams, but it can be a bit of a blow, can't it? What I would say, I don't want to mention it too many times, but at the Bookkeepers Summit, we do have a special room for students where we're covering double entry in a digital world and VAT under MTD. So there are changes coming in because of MTD in April next year. That's on the Monday, and on the Tuesday we're talking about adjustments, final accounts, and FRS 105. If any of those things are subjects that you're struggling with, I would advise you to consider coming to the Bookkeepers Summit. Now, most of our accredited training providers might even be able to get you a special deal. This is top secret information, but they might be able to give you a special deal if you just want to come for one day. So do speak to them, see what they say about coming to the summit, and it might help. But also I do think the great thing about these events is that they can really just change the way you feel about where you're going to and just sort of reinvigorate you and you know, give you that chance to actually meet other people face to face that have been in the same situation. So Emma, you're not the only one. Everyone, if you're having a problem, somebody else has had that problem before. We have, most of our members actually are women who are trying to fit this in around other family commitments. So we're actually 72% of us are women. So it's very common and people have done it. That's not to say it's easy, but do please make use of all the sort of networking opportunities. Just, you know, give us a call, see what we say on the phone as well. And we can certainly try and put you in touch with a new training provider if you think that would help. And maybe just to sort of do that last push to get you through there, it might be a good idea. Did you have any kind of study buddy, Ricardo, or did you kind of just go it alone because you'd had a bit of experience? Obviously, we forgot to mention your mum was a bookkeeper.
Oh yes, yes. My mum was a bookkeeper. My uncle was an accountant. So I did grow up with helping out my mum doing a few bits and bobs. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the questions whilst I was studying that I wasn't quite sure how to go about, I would ask my mum, but she was very limited because she has been out of the industry for some time, so she would be quite limited to how to explain certain things to me, or specific topics. But it's about Ideal Schools, for example, which is my tutor, so I studied through them. They have this Facebook group that's fantastic. They've got two Facebook groups, one for students, one for students in practice. And I would definitely, you answer a lot of questions there, and there's a lot of people that are studying the same as you, so you can always meet up with people. I mean, I live in London, so there's always lots of people in London. But, it's about finding somebody who you can work with. I think at the time, whilst I was studying, because I was so busy, I had a full-time job, I was studying at the same time, I only had very little time to meet up with anybody. So I never had a study partner, but I think that's a very good idea.
There we go. Maybe that's something to consider. Okay, so just to say, just to answer a couple of quick questions, the recording will be made available, and we'll put it up as a news article, like we did with Chrissy Aplin's webinar as well. We are going to build up the student resources section of our website. So ultimately, that will be the sort of home of all the webinars. There's going to be loads of them. We're going to be discussing all of the challenges that face students, not just the full-time mums and the home. Oh wow, you're home educating. Yikes, wow. Oh, and somebody's just mentioned the Ideal Schools Facebook group is amazing. And so I'm conscious of the time because it's about 4 minutes to 3. Ricardo is a very busy man with his 80 clients. Is there anything else you would like to say now, Ricardo? I would quickly just like to say it's been so wonderful, and thank you ever so much, everybody, for contributing. And I'd say this is only Student Success Webinar 2, and already I've seen, the engagement level is increasing already. So is there anything else you'd like to say just to sum up, Ricardo?
No, I would just basically say, for those that are studying, make sure you think before going to practice. Make sure you study as much as you can. Go up to however level you can go, or if I know some people don't want to go a bit further, which is fine. As long as you've got level 3, you can get your practice license, but you're very limited to what you can do. Try and add on as many courses as you can. Research. Always call ICB if you're not sure. They've got a fantastic helpline. If you're dealing with something for a client, call Brian from Ideal Schools. I know he'll be listening to the webinar as well. Brian and his team are brilliant. So if you're struggling with a training provider, feel free to contact Brian, because they really did help me at the time I was studying. And I can't remember who my tutor was, but the tutors are there at any stage that you need, and if you're not sure about something, they will help you, and their coursework is very, very, very structured. So do try that. I think it was Emma was asking, so Emma, do try and speak to Brian and see if he can help you. Don't rush into practice. Take your time, learn, try and get some experience if you can within accountancy firms, or trialing out with small clients and see how you get on. And don't hesitate, just go. And it is brilliant to have your own business and be self-employed. I'm now a limited company, so I'm no longer self-employed, but have your vision, know where you want to go, and where you want to take your business to.
Have your vision. Well, ICB, just to sum up from ICB, we're here to help you realize your vision, whatever it may be, whether it's employment, 2 clients, 200 clients. We're here for you. Please do make use of the amazing network that we have here. And yeah, very good luck in following the very inspiring example set by Ricardo Pereira of Lamosa Bookkeeping. Is it? Sorry. The end there.
It's Lamosa Business Services.
Lamosa Business Services.
Yeah.
It's not important, the name of the business. It's
No.
this face, this charm. If you can prove to those clients that you value them and their business, and you can help them make improvements in the way that they work, then you're going to go far in this business.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you very much, Ricardo.
Thank you very much for having me, and I wish everybody all the best for their future.
That's brilliant. Good afternoon, everybody, and have a great week. Bye-bye.